I'm going to do something really scary, Sterling. I'm going to turn on my webcam so people can see me. There we go. And I don't mean to scare people, by having you look at my webcam, but I thought, what the heck, let's do this for fun. Welcome, everybody. My name is Greg Meiklejohn, and I'm the co-founder of Enrollment Resources, and we've been doing process improvement work in marketing and admissions for private schools for it's like 12 years. And with me is my colleague Sterling Simpson, and Sterling is our Associate Vice President of Business Development, and he has a lot of experience in this whole area of lead generation and marketing. So I think we should just get right at it. What I'm going to do is we're going to do a little bit of a presentation using something called our marketing ROI, and I'm going to take you through a whole bunch of items and show you how to better spend your money on in terms of marketing to get more bang for your buck. And this will hopefully give you some insights. So without further ado, we're just going to take you through this little sheet called a marketing ROI sheet. And so this is what we do as part of what we call a scorecard. And scorecard is a kind of a planning tool that will help a school gain a lot of clarity around how to spend money and allocate human resources when they're implementing their marketing and their admissions. So really, you're kind of getting a look under the hood. And so let's just jump right in. Now, what we do, I'm going to give you a little map, everybody. We'll do a little check-in. Hopefully everybody can see this okay. Yep, all good. Okay, so what we have here is we have in column C, all the possible ways you can spend time and money in generating interest for your school. So here's some key stuff you need to do in terms of management. This is key work you need to do in terms of core communication. And then this is where we start to spend a little bit of money. This is where we create web traffic conversion on your existing website. These are tactics there. How to create organic traffic generation. Some people call this SEO. And then we're going to talk about paid search marketing, such as Google AdWords or paid search via Facebook, what have you. And then we're going to talk about traditional media in terms of direct response. And we're going to talk about some other miscellaneous items. And then we're going to touch on nurture campaigns. We're going to touch on branding. And within that, that's where social media sits. So a lot of people have interest in social media. We're going to quell some myths around social media and where social media should fit into your overall marketing. And then we're going to touch on traditional media as well. Now, it's quite a lot. And we gave this talk at AppSkew a few years ago, and the school owners loved it. For some reason, the ad agencies not so much, but that's fine. Sterling, do you care to add in your 2 bits on some of these various items, or?
Yeah, no, I think this is a really a great process to go through, because it's a great way for you to know the value of everything you're doing and what you're not doing, and really create an action plan for how to tackle the things that need to be tackled that you aren't doing. And it's a great way to prioritize them on the ROI that you could expect from them. And you also know the amount of effort that it takes to go into the ROI. So it's excellent for just building out your overall strategy.
Now, guys, is as this moves along, you're going to have some questions. And after we do this presentation, for those then that want to jump off, they can. And then for those that want to ask any clarifying clarifying questions on this, Sterling and I will stay on for as long as you guys need to just clarify any questions that you might have. Or you might want to just put something into the question box and we'll attempt to address those at the end. But we prefer to have a kind of an interaction via the phone for entertainment purposes. So let's continue on our process here. Now, okay, here's something that's really important, you guys, and that is an idea is worth a dime a dozen. Like, an idea is worth absolutely nothing unless you can successfully implement that idea and monetize it, turn it into a result. And here's what typically happens is things get in the way. So, for instance, if there's a school and something requires expertise, but you don't have that expertise in-house, that good idea will just go sideways. If there's something that requires a lot of time to actually manage it on an ongoing basis, then if you don't have the time, if you have a time famine within your school and you're not willing to delegate, then, man, there's no use doing that marketing tactic because it'll just fail. If you have a safety net not in place, then it's very, you don't want to take on something as an example. Let me use an example here. Go and look at so the probability of outcome analysis. Okay, so let's look at as an example radio advertising. Okay, so say you want to do radio properly. You want to invest. You want to be doing about 4 to 5 radio spots a day to get critical mass to get people to pick up the phone. And it's, in broad terms, it's $1 to $2 per second. So 60, 120, like $150 a day. Say you run a 10-day campaign. So it's like a $1,500 monthly investment, and the projected return on investment is you're gonna get about 5 leads off of that at a cost of $300 a lead, ballpark. And but you could go as high as maybe 7 leads for that $1,500 investment. Now, here's where it gets interesting. This is about safety nets. The probability of you nailing that 7 leads in that first month of activity on the radio is about a 20% shot at getting it right. So what we want to do is we want to mitigate this by 20%, right? So we're at I'm going to just ballpark this in my head, it's about 1.7 leads. That's your weighted return on investment. We take 7 leads times 0.2, it's 1.4. And that's, so for every $1,500, we're generating 1.4 leads, and that gives us an adjusted cost of $1,000 per lead. Sterling, you want to comment on that? Sterling, are you there?
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I just took off mute. Yeah, that's quite a lot more than other forms of media. So another thing that I always say about radio advertising, even though it's a good way to, I guess, support a campaign you might be having, it's also difficult to completely measure in an absolute way, where the online channels definitely have a lot more, a lot easier for to measure and also put a direct ROI on things.
Yeah, so really, this is the key thing right here, is that, you know, you have a 20% chance of succeeding. That means that really there's no safety net. So that is really just what I wanted to show you guys about what safety net means. Now, a biggie is patience. If there's a senior person that has a lack of patience, and maybe they're looking at a marketing tactic that is going to take, say, 8 months to germinate, and there's they have a patience factor of 2 months. It's kind of akin to, I don't know if you guys have ever had like carrots in a garden, and you pull a carrot out of the garden too early, and you get these, these gross little stumpy carrots that are kind of useless. Well, that's what happens when you have an owner or senior manager that has a 1 or 2 month expectation of ROI, and they're working with a tactic that's 8 months ROI. Stumpy carrots, it's no good. And so we don't want to even do these kinds of things if you have an impatient boss or owner, and we can't do anything that requires patience. So what we've done here, you guys, is, and then we have type of expense. So if you're full of fixed expense in your budget, you don't want to take on more fixed expense. You want to have some variable expense and some free activities. And you ideally want to be able to measure how you spend your time and money so that you can fail fast, course correct, and get to best practice. So what we've done here, you guys, is we have taken each of these items here, and we have correlated from our experience how these play out in terms of operation and turning something into reality. And so this is really valuable because we're not only going to talk about the return on investment on these items, but we're going to talk about the probability of you succeeding in turning this idea into reality. Now, the last thing we've done is with each of these marketing items, we have gone and triaged them from the $4 signs. What that means is it's low cost or no cost with a high return, and $3 signs means it's a high cost item, a budget item, but with a potentially high return. And then $2 signs, you can dig down here, that is a lower cost but a lower return item. And then $1 sign is a high cost, low return activity. So ideally, you guys, what we want to do is spend most of our time initially focusing on things that are high cost, high return, and that way you can start to create some result and also not bleed into your budget. Okay? And then at that point, then you go to high cost, high return, or low cost, low return. You start to work like a triage, just kind of down, and try to mitigate doing things that are high cost, low return, because it's a waste of time and money for little response. Okay, so we can talk about management and all the things that you need to do in your marketing management, such as positioning maps, working with employer groups, stress testing, Gantt charts, documenting best practice, using Google Alerts as a feedback loop tool, compliance management, all that stuff. But I don't think that's what we're here for. We can also go and talk about core communication in terms of just really lead generation. 80% of lead gen is copywriting. And you find your pools of traffic, but if your copy is weak, then it's going to fail. Sterling, you want to speak to copywriting for a moment?
Yeah, copywriting is not only very important for you to get the correct message along to the potential students, but it's also a great way to put in like your benefit-driven copy. So what I always like to do is when you're building copy, either it's in a landing page or paid search ads or on your website, you want to have the copy be filled with benefits that you offer, and you want to highlight those benefits within the copy just so the prospective student, when they're coming and reading your copy, one of those benefits might speak directly to them, and when it does, that is when you actually get the higher chance of that student converting. So it's very important that your copy not only conveys the overall message, but also has these benefits all sprinkled out through within it.
Yeah, so within the core communication, we've got how to work your objections and issues into your copywriting using finding copy points and hooks through focus groups, how to create long copy direct response, how to build benefit language into your copy, and whatnot. So, but we're not going to talk about this today. We're going to do a separate workshop in September to talk about copywriting and split testing on landing pages and collateral material. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about the actual ways when you start to buy media, and we're going to go through and we're going to start right here, which is website conversion. So what we have, you guys, is we have a website. You all have websites for your school, I'm assuming, and you have websites that convert really, really well, and then you have websites that convert poorly. And if you have a website that is converting really, really well, and you have, let's say, 3,000 people a month coming to your website, it typically is about a 5% difference. So 5% of 3,000, that's like 150 extra leads a month if you're using some of these best practices to go and improve the quality of your website conversion. And I think, Sterling, what we'll do is let's bring up a website and we can show an example of one that converts really well. But let's just go and give a little overview of some of these key tactics. So the most important thing is to have a direct response pathway on your website. And we'll show you what that is, but basically it's an opportunity for people to fill out a form, to get a white paper, that kind of thing. Google Analytics is something that allows you, Google gives it to you for free, allows you to analyze how many people are coming to your website, where they go, where they jump off, and then a process called A/B testing. So you can split test headlines and what have you to go and improve the conversion rate. Testimonials. Ideally, you want to have about 15 testimonials to create overwhelming street cred with people that are jumping onto your website. Because once they jump on, they usually don't come back. That is a misnomer. There are 50,000 or so new websites that come onto the internet every day. And there's this massive competition for attention. And so if somebody is, surfing around and they come to your website, the odds of them coming back are pretty low. So what you want to do is, use the word hook, you want to hook them and get them to fill out a form so that you can nurture market to those guys over time. You want to have tracking numbers for media. So Sterling, explain what tracking numbers are.
Yeah, tracking numbers are unique numbers that would go on specific areas of either landing pages, or you could put them on different types of media, and they forward to your normal phone number, and so it's seamless to anyone calling in. But for the benefit is that you're able to track the number that calls in, how many calls come in, and you also can record the calls most times. So you'll be able to listen to your calls later on to confirm that they are actual leads, so you could get a hard lead total of how well a campaign performs. Plus, you also could use those to audit internally on the admission side. So they offer a lot of value, and they're usually fairly cost-effective for what you get for the value you get out of it.
All right. Thank you pages. So once somebody fills out a form on your website, there's a thank you page. And that thank you page is typically well underutilized. And so let's just jump in and look at some examples here, okay? Let's see, let's go to, this is a cosmetology school in Sacramento. And this is just a website that we built for these guys. So, the little green thing's not going away, Sterling. We're just gonna, you guys are just gonna ignore this little green circle I made. I don't know how to get rid of that damn thing. So, So here is a website with the Cosmetology School in Sacramento. They're a really good school. Let's look at some of the things that we have in place that will help to promote people picking up the phone, all right? So we have phone numbers prominently displayed here, right? We have this form here, right? And the form is a form where people can control, hey, what are they interested in pursuing? And there's not a million fields to fill out. It's a pretty small form, but it gives them a sense of control. Now, down here is the little TCPA, a privacy policy thing that needs to be completed. And our testing shows us that this is actually better to have it explicit like this. And then down here, we have this thing called Get Info Now, exclamation mark. Now, most people, let's just isolate on this for a sec, you guys. Most people will say submit, and it's typically black or blue or what have you. And what we've done is we've tested the colors and found that light blue, red, orange, those colors seem to pull really well. So what we did is a few years ago is we tested submit and tried different things to see if more people would click. And then we got Get Info, and that seemed to work better. And then we added in Get Info Now, and that worked even better yet again. And then Get Info Now with an exclamation mark worked even better yet again. So you guys, if you want to go and use this as a little takeaway from this webinar, Get Info Now with an exclamation mark, why don't you test it out and see if it works? Sterling, what do you think?
Well, no, that's great. It's something that we tested out through extensive A/B testing, and to this point, we haven't been able to find anything that's performed better. And it's really interesting. We tried using the play button there with the Get Info, the play button you see on like CD players and MP3 players, and we tried just trying so many different like little things, and that was what came out winning, and to this day, it's still the best one we've ever had.
Yeah, so here's what's cool is you see this form here. It sits in what's called the frame of the website, and no matter where you go on this website, there is always an opportunity to fill out this form. Now, the second thing we've done here is we have this thing called a virtual advisor, which we developed, which helps to not only generate leads, but it also helps you to convert leads. So this is the thank you page of after someone fills out a form, and in this case, this is a thing called a virtual advisor. And so I'm just going to go and show you just very briefly how it works. So people they want to learn, and they take the Beauty School Readiness Quiz. So this is where we take a thank you page and make it into something useful. So now they start to do this self-assessment. And this could be done at just like at 11 at night while someone's having a glass of wine, or on a Sunday morning, and they're just starting to self-assess, answering this little survey to themselves. Here's something about their goals and hopes and dreams. And then they continue on. And then they do this thing called a social style. And they can self-assess on the type of person, which is really instructive, both for the potential admissions rep and for this prospective student. And then here are some qualifying questions and what happens is the admissions rep will say, yes, sir, I care about this, or I don't care about that, which gives some clarity and focus to the process. And then this is a lifestyle check, so otherwise known as an education plan. So this is a preliminary education plan. very interesting. And then you get to put down your supporters, right? Every good marketing or admissions process should do, but it rarely gets done. So then what happens is you get a little report on whether you're ready to become a Cosmos student or not. And it can go, if they say no to all the questions, it ends up down here. But it's a little report, summarizes everything, get a little feedback on your social style. Then you hit the button and you get to create, custom build your own campus tour. The reason I bring this up is this is an example of how to properly use a lead conversion tool on a website, okay? And to take in thank you page optimization, all tracking numbers and all that. So that's a little primer, you guys, on how to take your website and improve it just with a few little ideas. Now, organic traffic generation is really interesting because you get people to come to your website and you have, I'm going to just tell you how to do it, okay? This is the bit, here's SEO 101. You don't have to have an SEO company. So take some notes here. This is what you do. Okay, you want to make sure that you have a blog page on your website, okay? That's the first thing. Second thing is, if you're doing a little paid search campaign, it will give you some really valuable information on what are the best keywords in terms of conversion. Sterling, you're an expert in this area. I just quickly speak to that.
Sorry, you cut out there for a second right before you said that.
Well, when we do paid search, we get all these this great intel on the top performing keywords and phrases and sentences in terms of words and phrases that turn into actual leads, and that so words can be used for SEO purposes.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. So within Google and Bing, it tracks everything you do within their paid search platforms. So you not only do you know how many people click on something, you know how many times it was an impression happened where it showed up in front of them in a search result, and you also know how many conversions you have. So when you're building out your organic traffic keywords, what you want to do is look into how things perform in paid search, because you want to look at your top converting keywords. So you could spend time focusing on keywords you know convert, but on top of that, you also would look into the top keywords that have impressions, because that's how you know the gross search traffic for the keyword. And then the top click keywords is also a good thing to look at. It's sort of a self-fulfilled prophecy based off of your ads, how many people click them, but still another great thing to look at, because you could actually look into what ads are producing the most clicks and use that same ad copy within your actual organic website to try to have in the display metadata. So that's what shows up in the search results, in the organic search results. So you could leverage everything from paid search into your organic search and help improve the overall organic.
So we use these keywords to populate, make sure they're populated in the appropriate spots in the website. That's called in-page indexing. And then, folks, the key thing that you can do, write this down, is the key thing you can do is you take one keyword or phrase, okay, and you write a 300 to 400 word article and around that phrase as a theme, okay? And you make sure that keyword or phrase is used 3 or 4 times maximum, and try to make sure the phrase is in the headline or the subhead of the article. And then you post that on your blog page. Okay, you got that? So then what happens is when somebody types in that keyword phrase, then Google will go, oh, there's an article that seems really relevant to what this person's keyword or phrase is. And then they will reward you by putting that article up near the top, and then people will click on that article to learn more. And that is your core tactic in terms of SEO. You do that and nothing else, you will have tremendous success in getting more eyeballs to come to your website. Okay? Let's move on there, Sterling. We just basically cut through a whole mass of BS the SEO industry goes and lays on people. We've just given people a primer on how to do it themselves to do it easily. The other thing you can do, it's a guerrilla marketing tactic, is you can post the openings for your school, the start dates for your intakes on Kijiji, Craigslist, and it's free. And it's essentially the classified section of the newspaper. It's free, and you can put these ads in all over the place. So that's good guerrilla marketing. You can pick up a handful of students each month just by putting in the deadline dates for your various intakes on your programs. And you can have somebody in-house doing that, like a receptionist, just basically posting these ads a couple times a week. That would be good enough. Okay, now paid search is really changing. Paid search prices have gone up, and paid search volume is going down. Google have changed the rules. Half of the traffic that comes through paid search comes mobile devices, and it's becoming fairly expensive now to go and use paid search marketing as an advertising tool. And so before, this used to be a low-cost, high-return activity, but now it's a high-cost, high-return activity where lead costs can get as high as $100 a lead. So Sterling, do you want to just speak to what's going on with marketing trends?
Yeah, so a big thing that's happened recently is Google is actually trying to get people to use their internal bid management stuff that they provide for free. So they have a way to set it up.
So bid management stuff, you mean there's basically a system that schools can sign up for where they can attempt to do their own paid search?
To a degree, yes. What Google is doing is they're making the paid search part of it where you actually manage the bids and spend more, spend less based off results, completely automated within Google. But the problem is what Google does is they always are doing everything they can to push up spending, because the more you spend on Google, the more they make. So they're trying to sort of get in under the agencies and get people using all their internal tools, which a lot of people are using, and all these tools do is push up the bids. So they'll have people who are inexperienced in Google create a campaign, and then they would set it towards trying to get a certain rank. So you'd be like, I want to be ranked number 2 or 1 or 3, whatever the rank is. And
so search is basically a Dutch auction where people will go and bid to put their little ads, and the higher you bid, the higher you go. And I think the mistake is that everybody wants to be number 1. It's a natural inclination. So for instance, if you want to be number 1 with paid search with Google for, say, a massage school, you can conceivably be paying, I don't know, $15, $20 a click just to get people to come to your landing page. And that's insane, because that turns out to be like $150 a lead. And then depending on how well you convert those leads, it could be anywhere, if it's perfect, it's $1,500 a sale. But if it's typical, it's like $3,000 a sale. which really messes up your margins.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bad deal. So what we always try to do is with our clients, and here's another tip that you can write down if you're doing paid search. You want to be somewhere in between the 3rd spot and the 5th spot, because this allows you to have a combination of getting volume from your paid search, plus it allows you to keep your costs down. Right, Sterling?
Exactly, and there are certain situations where you might want to, like, you'll see a keyword performing extremely well in a, like, say, the 3rd spot, so you ROI based, you might be able to bid it up to the 2nd spot, but we don't want to do that until we have the data to support it first. So you always start targeting between 3 and 5, and then if you have the performance to justify it, you may want to target 2nd or 1st rank. And if your performance doesn't justify it, you might even want to target a lower rank. Another situation that I guess would be outside of that is branded terms. With branded terms, you will be wanting to rank number 1, but that's a completely different altogether, because due to how quality score works is you actually rank better for your brands than anyone else would. So it's easy to be number 1. But with
So
core
a branded
keyword,
term is where you include the name of the school in the keyword or phrase.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. So that's interesting. So what we're getting at here is that, you can go and throw a bucket of money at paid search, whether it's Google, it's Bing, Facebook, and you can spend a bucket of money, but if you don't do it intelligently, you can absolutely destroy your budget and lose a ton of money doing it. You have to be conservative in how you do these campaigns. Paid search campaigns, there's a natural finite amount of interest. So for instance, we may generate 50 leads in a paid search campaign at $50 a lead, and then you hit the wall, and then the prices go up $150, $200 a lead, like a hockey stick. And you just have to be really careful is really all we're saying. Now, the way you mitigate that is going back to this area, which is using A/B testing to go and improve the conversion rates of the website. So once people come to the landing page on paid search, they arrive there, you can mess around with headlines and offers to get people to fill out a form or phone you. And the higher the conversion rate, of course, it lowers your cost per lead, right? You guys get that? So that is probably the most important thing you really want to focus on. How can we get 10% of the people that come to that paid search landing page to either phone you or to fill out a form? Okay? So how are we doing, Sterling? One other thing. You talk about all social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. Let's be clear. It's not free. When you put a Facebook post on for your corporate website, approximately 3% of the people that are on your big list will see that to be done properly is what's called boosting. And boosting is a paid search activity. So all these guys that are doing this free social media stuff, it's all BS. It's a free social media package wrapped around a paid search business model. Let's just be aware of that. Okay, traditional media in terms of direct response, right? So these are typically any kind of direct response advertising is expensive, but it can really bear fruit. Far and away the best item, if you're going to do traditional media for direct response, put a small classified ad side of the training section, the application section of the classified section of your daily paper. They still get read, and whoever does come to the classified section has an interest. And I'm going to write you down the ad that you guys can use. the ad that I'm going to give you the ad to use that will give you the best ROI for a paid ad campaign. Now, this can also be used, the same ad can be used with Craigslist and whatnot. So, Sterling, should I write down the ad?
Yeah.
Do you think people would appreciate if I wrote down the ad?
I think they would. It's especially after they go ahead and use it, and then they realize the value of it, then they might want some more ads from you too.
Okay. So that's the headline. That's it. That's the ad, you guys. So basically, you talk about the career. Want to be a cosmetologist, want to be in massage, want to be this, want to be that. Call now and we'll send you your free career starter kit on how to become a blah. And then the name of the school and the phone number and nothing else. That's the ad that you use in your classified section. Okay?
And you'll see there that that ad was taking advantage of what we were talking before about the benefit-driven copy too. It not only had that in there, but also had urgency in there with the now. And what I like about it is the first line poses a question, which is always a great way to grab people's attention. You pose a question right off the bat, and the person, if they answer yes to that question, in their mind, it's something subconscious, they'll continue to read. If they aren't interested, then it doesn't matter because it's not the right person. And so you jump right in, you get a free career starter kit, and then again at the end, it also mentions the specific program there too. So it's
conceivably generate a phone lead for like $150. And phone leads typically will convert around 15%. So it's like $750 per student per start. That's pretty good. All right, so that's when we pick out in terms of direct response. Now, then you take the same tested approach. You take that 7-line ad, and you can use it on the radio. You can use it as a TV ad. You can use that on the backdrop of you're at a trade show, trade fair, and it's basically, you want to be a cosmetologist? Call now or say about your free career starter kit, or hey, would you like to be a cosmetologist? Would you love to be in the beauty industry? Call Cambridge College now and receive your free career starter kit. And then it explains the benefits of the career starter kit and how you can gain more information and clarity about this career. And so what you're doing is you're not selling going to school. You're selling the baby step of that. Let me just Sterling check in and just see how we're doing.
we got 14 minutes.
Okay, hold on here. There are a couple people who are on here that did not read the instructions for the call and to come in on the conference call. However, that's too bad. So they're looking and watching, but they can't hear. But that's fine. Okay, Now, let's go and talk about nurture campaigning. If you guys use nurture campaigning, you can increase your overall conversion rate by up to 10%. So stated another way, if your blended conversion rate for your school is 10%, you go up to 13%. That's a 30% lift in overall revenue. So this is worth looking at. That's why everything here is a low-cost, high-return activity in terms of nurture campaigning. Now, the best way to explain nurture campaigning is as such. The prospective students are like the cherries on a cherry tree. And the school goes, the admissions department, they go out looking for cherries and to harvest. And they come across a tree, and the typical low-grade admissions department will go and raise the fruit off that tree. They will take the cherry buds, the green cherries, the red cherries. They'll take all the red cherries, put them in their baskets, and they leave the green cherries and the cherry buds to rot on the ground. And they move on and try to find another cherry tree. So I would just say, using that analogy, how stupid is that? It makes much more sense to find a cherry tree, build a little fence around it, put a sentry around the fence, and then water and fertilize and nurture that cherry tree so that it constantly produces red cherries perpetually over time. So people, because they don't properly follow up, they screw up, man, and they just leave all these prospective students just twisting in the wind. So an admissions rep, they see an internet lead as a lead, but consumer, if they fill out a form, they're not saying I'm going to buy. What they're saying is, I want more information. They are researching. They're in the research mode. Their buying cycle is not fully developed. It's like the green cherry on the cherry tree, and you can't exhort a green cherry to become a red cherry by yelling at it or manipulating it or selling it. You have to let that green cherry do its thing and get the sunlight and the water and grow at its own pace. Same as the buying path for prospective students. If they're in the early days and they're researching, and you're one of the people that they're researching on, you need to work with them at their own pace. And so that's why nurture campaigning, where you work with somebody up to, say, a year and a half, and you do it in a gentle, supportive, loving way, the ethical way to take somebody who's confused about their life, that doesn't quite understand what to do, and you methodically help them create some clarity around their life path. Now, they may go in another direction, but as admissions people, you've done a good service for them. And nurture campaigning is the key. Now, the problem with nurture campaigning, and most senior managers have their head down, their chin on their chest, and they're just focused on the next intake. If a school has the guts to be strategic in nature and look at all these leads that are coming in a 1.5-year horizon instead of a 3 to 4 week horizon, there's tremendous opportunity to build revenue and also to do some good work in the community. So the key here is patience. You need to have patience to do a proper nurture campaign. Okay?
And one thing I really like about nurture campaigns is it's very cost effective. As you can see there, all those tactics have 4 dollar signs. It's always great because you're not spending a lot of extra money out there on advertising. You're using what you already have and just cultivating it. And it takes a little bit of time, and sometimes it can take patience. But it's definitely something that, like the ROI-wise, it's always worth doing. And it's just, if someone's not taking advantage of it, it's just resources right there that are available to you that you're not utilizing.
Yeah. I noticed that Janine Hansen has raised her hand. Janine, just hang tight for just a couple more minutes, and we're happy to take your question. Now, in terms of branding, branding is like an insurance policy for a consumer, okay? And so what happens is it makes it easy for them to make a decision to. So it's like branding is what dislodges demand. You don't want to use advertising to do this function because it's tremendously expensive. And so if you are going to spend money, use public relations as a way to put stories in newspapers and on radio and in traditional media. Social media is, believe it or not, also very expensive. But if you can have a professional social media person planting stories and content online, again, you create a nice buzz about your school. But let's be clear, it's expensive, and it's very hard to track, and it requires patience. If you don't have patience, any kind of brand building effort is going to be very frustrating. You do need to have some branding as it relates to your direct response. The branding makes the direct response work better. Okay? I think that's all we really have to say at the moment. Anybody wants to come, and if you want this done for your school in some real detail, you guys, Sterling and I are happy to go and do a few of these. We have a little bit of time. We can get on a GoToMeeting and take you through this specifically for your school. But we have maybe 3 or 4 spots where we can do this, like we have a limited amount of time. If you are interested in having this done for free, just text this following number. Bear with me here. So just text our office. And the text would be 250, or you could phone 391-9494, text or phone, and we'll arrange to set you up to have a complimentary hour to go and review all this stuff in some detail specific to your school. Now, Sterling, before we take questions, do you have any final comments about how to create clarity in marketing?
Yeah, one thing that I always preach is consistency. So when you are creating a campaign, as long as you keep the message consistent through all your channels and even within the same channel. So one thing I really like is in something like paid search. If someone is searching for a specific program, let's say, and you have your the ad that shows up on the right-hand side of Google says something that mentions the program, but also says like get the skills to become a XYZ, whatever your program is. And then you want to make sure the landing page itself is very consistent to that ad. Use that same terminology, if possible, even the same title. And that way the user gets a very consistent user experience. If you were to use that same terminology in other advertising, so in your print advertising, on your radio ads, you want to just make sure that everything is consistent and you have the same message. So when someone hears it somewhere else, it clicks because they've heard that before, they've seen it before on text. So it's one thing I could never stress enough is having consistency from different channels, but also within the same channel. You want to have a very balanced message that they will see and register with, because if someone clicks an ad, that ad copy is what convinced them to click. It was strong enough that they want to click, so you got to maintain that same copy on the landing page and other media too. Okay, and here's another tip around what Sterling had just said, and you guys might want to write this down. This is a split test that we've recently done, and Sterling used the word get. And so let's tell a little story about split testing. So we've been testing headlines on landing pages, both in terms of print, collateral material, and online.
And what we found was, surprisingly to us, if you use the word get in your headlines, you can have a conversion increase of up to, it's 52%. So that's crazy. So basically it would be get trained to be a cosmetologist would be an example of using the word get. Sterling, you want to expand on that little split test?
Yeah, it's really interesting because get is a very actionable word, and that is what why we believe it was so successful. People, when they see the word get, they automatically it's just something registers in your head, like you're receiving something, get this. And it just seemed to perform way better than all the other words that we were using. And what I felt was really excellent about that is we said, like, get, and we also use terms like get the skills or get career ready, and then you mentioned the program at the end always. But it just was, the way it's laid out is you are telling them, like, you use an actionable word at the start, and then you bring up what they're getting in the middle. So you're getting career ready, you're getting the skills to be a, and then you mentioned that the three of them together are what made the perfect headline.
Okay, yeah. So now, folks, what we're going to do here is we're going to take, we've gone over budget here in terms of our time by a few minutes, but we will make ourselves available to, if you have any questions or comments or challenges, you can just pipe up. Now, Janine has been very polite, and she's put up her hand. Janine, are you still there by chance? Just, Janine, if you're there, you just press *6, and you can join the conversation. No? Okay, she must have jumped out. Okay, now, does anybody else have any questions or any comments about what we're up to here? No?
I have a question about some of the macro level changes in the industry.
Sure.
Including
Who are we
basic. Excuse me?
Who are we speaking to?
Oh, this is John Pennington, Zenith Education Group. There's shrinking demand. There's an unfavorable regulatory climate, at least in the United States, and the regulations on heightened cash monitoring lead to the possibility that a great deal of competitors might do unpredictable things due to the possibility of financial desperation because of these heightened cash monitoring rules. And I was wondering if you could talk about how this climate has changed the return on investment and advisability of different tactics that you've outlined here.
Yeah, great question. So what has happened is over the years, the internet marketing world has kind of ruled the education world. It's like the internet marketing lead portal tail is wagging the education industry dog, and schools have completely reworked their activity to what can be a kind of a nefarious undertaking by these internet marketing guys. So the government's come in and said, no, this is wrong. You guys are misbehaving. And so what's happened is they've basically said, you internet marketing guys, you have to start behaving or we're going to investigate you. In fact, 4 senators have sent a group letter to the Federal Trade Commission in the U.S. asking them to investigate the behavior of internet marketing companies. Where this is heading is that it's a flight to quality, and that is, what we mean by that is the copywriting needs to be really transparent, and it needs to be very rich and full and thorough. And that's going to adversely affect the number of leads you get, but the quality of the leads will be much higher. The second thing is how you connect with and engage with prospective students once you have them on the phone or even engaging by email is really crucial, and it must be done in a very mature, sober, objective manner. Some of the top commercial, like counselor selling schools, will say you have to qualify really, really hard to make sure there's an excellent fit before you put your promoter hat on to talk about your business. And so this is something that has escaped private education to a large degree, where they just start getting in there, whipping up happy sort of promotory language without even properly qualifying or connecting with the prospective student to make sure that this is a proper fit. And so tools like, for instance, our virtual advisor tool are like a forced discipline to ensure that an admissions rep will, in fact, behave and properly take a prospective student through a qualification process. Because you have to remember that we're not just selling like tickets to a concert or something. We are helping to change somebody's life for the better. And it's typically, many cases, a terrifying process for people to put their world on their ear for a year to 4 years or whatever it is and live really poor and without any guarantees that they're going to succeed. People need to be honored for even the desire to have that initiative in their life, and so the least that we can do is properly qualify people, make sure that indeed this is the right path for them. And the gift that we can give them as an industry is to say, based on what I'm talking with you about in our qualification process, it appears that you might be better, more suited in a career that is maybe wage-oriented versus commission-oriented or whatever, right? Whatever it may be. So, John, that would be my answer to that question.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Hey, Greg, this is Jim Paris. How are you?
Jim, I'm doing well. Folks, for those of you that do not know Jim Paris, he's a admissions management veteran of 30 years, and if you ever are looking for outstanding advice on admissions process and communication, Jim's a fantastic guy to look up. Go ahead, what's your question?
Yeah, well, that was pretty good. I appreciate that, Greg. Now, first was a comment, and then I do have a question. But, you know, this scorecard that you guys have gone through, I've played with it many times, and certainly in those of you on the phone who have either multiple campuses or satellite campuses, you can certainly combine and take a look at whether it's your urban groups or suburban, and get some commonalities that way. The other thing, it's pretty nice. It does show. I mean, you only went through one or two of the tabs. There's many more on this, but it certainly takes a lot of the subjectivity out of your next steps. You back it up with a lot of facts. I think, Sterling, you talked about data integrity and making sure that you have the accurate information and you know what you're looking at and use the same definitions for things. But this map that you have, it points out where you got to go and where your attention is and what's working and what's not. But so that's my comment. The question is, how often do you think this should be? This exercise should you go through? I mean, every quarter at the end of each start.
No, I don't think you need to go through it on the quarterly side. I think on the marketing side, if you just went through it twice a year, and then we have an admissions one as well. This is like how to go and so this is the admissions return on investment tool. This is how to. It's a whole ton of ways to convert leads into students. So this is the admissions side, of course. And the admissions side, I would do that one quarterly, and the marketing maybe twice a year.
Yeah.
Okay. Just stand by, Jim. Sharon Jan, are you on? You have your hand up. Do you have a question? Are you there? No? Okay. Brian Brumner, you have a question? No?
And *6 just so everyone knows to jump in.
Yeah, that's right. Just press *6, and then you can unmute yourself and jump into the conversation.
This is Janine.
Hello, Janine.
Hi. I just didn't get it unmuted, but what I wanted to ask you is there's a lot of competition in our area.
Yes.
How do I overcome that? There's also a great population. How do I overcome the competition?
Okay, I'm going to do some advanced work here. Okay, so this is called a positioning map, okay?
Okay.
So what you want to do is take some key attributes and that you are up against in terms of competition. So there's like these are whatever the variables might be, right? And then so you want to say, okay, our expensive competitors. So you just want to map it. It's called a positioning map. And the rule of thumb is first in owns 50% of a niche, right?
Yes.
That's like Coca-Cola. Second in owns 25%, right?
Okay.
Third in owns 12%, and then what we say is the rest are fighting for scraps. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
And so if you're in, you could have the best school in the world, but if you're like the fourth into a market, doesn't matter because you've got to actually climb over top of these guys in addition to communicating with your market and compete with all this chatter that they're generating. So here's how you do it.
Okay.
One of the guys that was in there fighting for scraps was 7-Up, okay? And so 7-Up created a new ladder. They created a ladder called the Uncola. So what they did is they created a new subset of soft drinks that were just basically stripped the whole cola market, and that was Coke, Pepsi, and RC Cola out of the mix. And we said we're going to have an Uncola, and so they were the first in. And they got 50% of the Uncola market. And they basically, I don't know if you guys, the young folk here, if you want to go on YouTube, type in Uncola commercials, and you'll see these old ads of this big Jamaican dude in a white suit going, the Uncola, ha ha ha. And that ad campaign increased the market share for 7-Up by 4%, fighting for scraps, to 16% in 1 year. Now, what they did there was they essentially, through their ad campaign, they created a whole new category, right? So the category was Uncola. And Uncola, as it turns out, had a 32% of overall share, of which 7-Up got half. Another example would be University of Phoenix. So those guys were just a small school, and then they landed on this a differentiation point of earn while you learn. So they focused on people who had a job that still wanted to finish their degree, and they organized their whole product like just their entire product was built around people who could study at night and on the weekends, who could go to work in the daytime. And so they became, and so the question is, when you fracture the market like that, the curiosity is how big is it when you fracture it? So with the University of Phoenix, as it turns out, the market was pretty big. And, you know, they were signing up for years and years, 200,000-300,000 students a year, generating billions of revenue. So they had 50% of that earn while you learn subset. What they did was they articulated the subset and then walked into it and owned it. That's what you do. You identify the subset, articulate it, walk in and own it. And then, of course, now there's guys like Western Governors, and there's all kinds of players in there fighting for scraps in that earn while you learn market. So what you need to do, Janine, is find out where where the subset is in the market. Is it a French immersion market or a Spanish immersion market? Can you do a Spanish immersion preschool? I don't know. Just you got to hunt for that subset. You communicate it out to the world, and you own it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I will do that.
Now, Brian, are you still around? Did you want to ask a question, or?
Yes, just a quick one. When you were talking about the ad, like the classified ad and the copy, I noticed you had something about sending out a career starter kit. For our schools, we typically don't send out things. We much rather let the energy of the actual location and the facilities kind of speak for themselves and meet with our reps and stuff like that. So we generally do not send things out. Do you find that you have better conversion when you offer to send paperwork out, or do you have any suggestions for alternate language for schools who don't typically send information out via mail?
That's a fantastic question. There's something called cognitive recoil, and so here's how it works. You're on the edge of a bluff, and 10 feet away is the other side of the bluff. I think it's like a gorge, right? And down that gorge it goes down 100 feet, and at the bottom are all these skeletons of dead people who tried to jump over that 10-foot space and failed. On the other side of that gorge is a Porsche Targa, Porsche Carrera. And if you can jump over that 10 feet, you can have that car for free. Now, what happens is there's a push-pull going on, and you want to jump over that thing to get that free car, but then you look down below and you see all these dead people at the bottom of this gorge. And inevitably what will happen is consumers will put a 4-to-1 rating on the risk against the reward. Now, hear me out here, Brian. Because at the beginning of your buying experience, your buying thought, it's very easy to bail, and the benefits have not been clearly defined. The benefits have not been clearly built out in the mind of the consumer. That's the job of the admissions rep, is to help them clarify the value of retraining. And so because they have a weak concept typically of what they want to do and where they want to go, and there's a fear also of failure, they typically will bail back. So what you need to do in your marketing, however you want to do it, is you want to use a series of a half a dozen little lock steps, tiny little baby steps. So what you're doing is, if you can somehow magically put little jumping stones across the gorge, 3 or 4 jumping stones, then it's like, oh, okay, I can see that car, and there's jumping stones that I can jump on, and you hop on and then it makes it safe, you see. So this is an example of when you phone in to get your free career starter kit. Then, when somebody is on the phone, you can say, by the way, Sally, our admissions rep, happens to be free. Would you like to have a quick word with her? She's really nice, and she can maybe answer some of your quick questions. Or it could be, hey, you also might want to consider popping by for a visit. We've got good coffee, and it'd be fun for you to check it out. So it becomes, once you have them on the phone, you keep your promise to send the information out, but you can build a premise to invite them in. So now, it doesn't necessarily have to be this. You can use a different way to create the baby step. But I think it's important to have baby steps with such a huge life-changing thing. You need to give people a little something to have them digest, and then to get comfortable, and then you take them. It's like I do outrigger canoe racing, and I'm in this program, and the coaches they use this boil the frog, kind of cook the frog kind of approach. And, they laugh at me because I use that with an analogy of how they get us to do things we don't want to do. And that is, you guys know about boiling the frog, eh? Like you got to cook a frog, you put them in a pot with cold water, then you gently turn up the heat to make it tepid, and then warm. They get drowsy and then warm, and then the frog passes out, and then you go a little warmer yet again, and then they asphyxiate, and then they pass away, but they don't know it. They've already passed out, right? And then, anyway, that's the ethical way to cook a frog. Anyway, that's my point. I've gotten way off track. That's a super weird analogy, Brian, but you see.
Greg, that was good.
Okay. Thank you. I definitely understood what you were saying. Thank you, I appreciate that.
All right, bud.
Brian, this is Jim again. If I can comment too, I think the word never is kind of going away with the response type process for admissions. I mean, not sending anything or holding everything back for the visit is, that the group of millennials, that younger group, they have information. They got a lot of it already, and if you're holding them blackmail to, those are all great questions. I'll talk to you about it when you come down. I mean, that's a tough position to take right now. I know that years ago that was the stance, but I think there's a balancing act, and to Greg's point, I mean, it depends. You got to be able to play with the throttle depending on who you're dealing with, but I don't think it's all one way or the other. There's ones I found that, you're actually doing some phone interviews. I mean, they're missing appointments 3 or 4 or 5. You can't lose something you don't have, and you might as well try to warm them up as best you can and build a rapport and relationship. And if you got to do an abbreviated phone interview, I mean, it's the last resort. But again, you don't have them now, right? And you've been playing tag, and they've been missing. So I guess there's a lot of options you can go through, but.
Yeah, exactly. We've got another question from Randy Randy Blankenship, who's very active out in the education space, and he's asking the question, virtual admissions advisor, how does that compare to Velocify? So Velocify, for those that you don't know, is an excellent what's called a lead management system. And so they have the ability to create to take all the information that comes in from these leads, organize it up for admissions reps, and then basically manage these leads for these reps. And it helps the reps to, in turn, create, it's more efficient. And so think of it like Salesforce.com, but it's customized for higher education. And so that's what Velocify does in the marketplace. And there's some other companies like Talisma, I believe, is a company that does that, and others, but Velocify is really a nice service. And then Virtual Advisor is an engagement tool. So, garbage in, garbage out is the rule of thumb for CRMs or lead management systems. If you have crap that goes in, it doesn't help the reps at all. What Virtual Advisor does is it draws up people's hopes, their dreams, their goals. It talks about who their supporters are, all sorts of juicy, good information, and then it actually imports into these CRM systems, and then the admissions rep has this cornucopia of valuable information which allows them to better craft communication and exchange with a prospective student, which in turn leads to a much higher quality engagement. The prospective student gets what they need. It's a much healthier way to create a life path. So Virtual Admissions Advisor is an engagement tool to get high quality information out to the admissions rep. It also gives the prospective student a tool to create clarity and insight around life path. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the difference between the two. And we will never do a CRM. We'll always just use partner up with Velocify or Salesforce.com or what have you, or whatever people are using. It's kind of our line in the sand. It's it's just not an area that we do. But it's a great question. Thank you. There's also a question. Let's see. It says here, does virtual admissions advisor work in tandem with campus login? And the answer is yes. We can work with campus login. So we can, this fits in with anybody. So that's what we do in that regard. Now, any other questions from anybody else before we pack it in? Gone. Okay, I think that's it. Sterling, thanks so much for jumping on. And Jim, thanks for jumping on as well. If Justin Hinchcliffe asked if there was a way to get some deeper access to the ROI sheet, and the way to do that again is to just text us at 250-391-9494, right here, and we will set up a time and we'll walk you through it and do it for you as a freebie. Okay, I think that's it, everybody, and I hope we've taught you some stuff, and take those tips and go use them and try them out.
Thank you.
All right, have a nice day, you guys.
Bye.
Bye, Janine.